India has traditionally entered into a number of bilateral trade agreements with countries, neighboring countries, as well as a lot of Asian countries, as well as other countries. The whole purpose of these bilateral agreements is to promote bilateral trade between these countries, and the underlying theme being that those goods which are produced or generated in those countries should enjoy some sort of a benefit when trade is between these two countries. Accordingly, India gives a facilitation in the form of an exemption from custom duty to goods imported from those countries into India. Same way, Indian goods which get exported across to those countries enjoy an import duty benefit while entering into those countries. India has traditionally had a bilateral agreement, a free trade agreement with Japan. Same way we have with Thailand. There is the ASEAN agreement which covers Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, etc. We also have the IPTA, which is the China, Korea, Sri Lanka are all covered within those agreements. Typically what has happened is that goods which carry a country of origin, certificate of origin along with those goods enjoy a duty exemption benefit when imported into the other country. Recently there has been some change in law, and this has resulted into certain implications for importers in India. Traditionally, imports under the preferential trade agreements were enjoying an exemption just on the basis of a certificate of origin issued by the exporter or obtained by the exporter from an authority in its country and made available to the importer. So therefore, all the importer was required to furnish to the customs authority for enjoying a benefit under the trade agreement or under the customs notification authorizing such exemption was the furnishing of a certificate of origin. What has happened is, in the last budget, the government has introduced a new provision, section 28DA, which now shifts the onus of not only furnishing a certificate of origin, but also maintaining a series of documents which will prove that the certificate of origin has been authentically obtained. Not just that. Prior to this introduction of this provision, the onus of confirming whether the certificate of origin was appropriately obtained was on the customs authority. Through the introduction of this provision, this whole onus has been shifted from the customs authorities to the Indian importer, which has resulted in the Indian importer now requiring to obtain and maintain all of these information and also furnish when called upon to the customs authority to prove that the certificate of origin has been appropriately obtained, which means that the goods which he has imported do meet with the value addition criteria or the origin criteria prescribed under the FTA, the free trade agreement. Now, one more aspect which comes through is that some of this information that the Indian importer is required to maintain could have implications from the exporter's perspective, as the exporter may not be wanting to share some of these details, being trade confidential information or patented information or his pricing information, etc., which in that scenario creates a dilemma for the Indian importer how to maintain that. There are ways out. There is a mitigation possible to get in an intermediary. Any accountant or a consulting firm or a legal firm could act as an intermediary to be the repository of that information and make it available to the Indian authorities when called upon. But will the Indian importer have to act upon and bring in these new provisions or comply with these new provisions through the help of an intermediary? The answer seems to be yes. Another concern which comes through with the introduction of this provision is the term sufficient information, as that has been used under the rules, the Carotar rules which have been issued under these provisions. The rules say that the Indian importer is required to maintain information, sufficient information, that will prove that the certificate of origin issued meets with the requirement or meets with the criteria under the free trade agreement. Now, what is sufficient information has not specifically been described. So while the Indian importer may feel that he has maintained significant amount or the sufficient level of information, it could very well be that the customs authorities may come back to say that such information furnished or provided is not sufficient information. The implication of that is the Indian importer may lose the exemption benefit. The Indian importer may also be blacklisted for any further future benefits to be availed. Not just that, the foreign exporter may lose the facilitation of providing these goods under the same exemption benefits to the Indian importer or even to the other procurers within the country. While the government has not been very specific and explicit of the reason for the introduction of the new provision, and it does not need to also, through various press releases as well as certain circulars, clarifications issued, it is clear that the purpose being anticipated or rather apprehended misuse of benefits under these foreign trade policies and a reason to curb those. And therefore, it is seeming that the purpose of introducing this was to curb any such benefit which is wrongly being availed by the importers through misclassifying or through furnishing of improper documentation. That has two implications. One, it has resulted into loss of revenue for the government, but more importantly, it has impacted the domestic industry, which is striving hard and wanting for a level playing field to produce and market the same products. So these two will be considered as the important reasons why these new provisions have been brought in. The implication, however, is that it's a bilateral trade agreement under which the trade is to be conducted in an effective manner. Could the Indian government solely on its own basis, voluntarily, unilaterally bring in certain provisions which could implicate the trade between the two countries and thereby reduce the possibility or lesser incentivize the Indian importer now from availing benefit under the trade agreement?
In relation to the implications that would arise if you do not comply with the provisions of Carotar or if you do not provide the information, these are twofold. One vis-a-vis the importer, the other vis-a-vis the exporter. Now, in relation to the importer bit, what happens is that if the importer is not providing sufficient information, the first implication would be that the authorities may refer this verification process to the authority who has issued the certificate of origin. In that event, when a verification is carried out, what will happen is the benefit that the importer is getting under the preferential trade agreement may be temporarily suspended. In an event where the benefit has been temporarily suspended, what would happen is that the subsequent clearances of the same product shall be made on a provisional basis. When such provisional assessment happens, what will be the implication is that the differential duty that arises, the importer will have to provide security equivalent to that differential duty component, which can be by way of a bank guarantee or a bond, or the officer may even insist that the importer pay up the differential duty in cash. So this is the first implication. Second implication is, notwithstanding any implication under the Carotar rules, if the importer does not provide sufficient information in relation to the imports that he is making, in respect of which he is claiming benefits under the preferential trade agreement, or if the importer is found guilty of not having exercised reasonable care, then in that event all his subsequent imports in respect of which he is claiming benefit under the preferential trade agreement shall be subject to section 17(2) of the Customs Act. What does that mean? That essentially means that he will not be allowed to carry out a self-assessment and his imports shall be verified on every occasion. So that's a very detrimental position qua the importer. The third implication qua the importer would be that in case eventually it is held that the certificate of origin has been obtained by fraudulent means and importer was hand in glove with the exporter, then there would be penal consequences on the importer as well. So these are the consequences in relation to the importer. Now vis-a-vis the exporter, see, in relation to the exporter there is no direct consequence because exporter is not directly responsible to provide information to the authorities in India, and also the exporter does not need to comply with any of the requirements under the Carotar. But we also need to be mindful of the fact that essentially the exporter is doing the business with India. So any impact that is arising in relation to the importer will directly impact the business of the exporter. So what would happen is that in case some benefits are denied to the Indian importer, commercially it may backfire the exporter in terms of the commercial negotiation that happens vis-a-vis the consideration. But there is one starking impact that may also arise in relation to the exporter, which is that if in relation to any import, the authorities ultimately hold that the certificate of origin is not valid, then qua every subsequent import of the same product from the same exporter, the benefit under the preferential duty agreement will be denied. So that is very detrimental, because if suppose I am an exporter and one of my importers in India does not comply with the requirement or is not able to demonstrate compliance with the origin criteria, then in that situation all my exports into India will get prejudiced. That is one of the most critical implication which may arise in relation to an exporter. This is a unilateral move that the government of India has made. Plus, it can also be construed to be in violation of rules of origin as well as the FTA, because both rules of origin as well as the FTA accord higher sanctity to the certificate of origin. Now, going beyond the certificate of origin can be in violation of rules of origin as well as the FTA. But having said that, if this issue is taken to the court, courts may perceive it as a matter of policy, and generally government is considered to have a wide latitude in policy matters. Also, the courts may also view this to be a restriction that enables or protects the rights of the genuine importers as well as the domestic manufacturers who are getting impacted by influx of imports under the FTAs, which is in violation of the FTA norms. So if you ask me, I don't think that, even if this provision is challenged before a writ court, I think that challenge would not sustain. Having said that, if there are other issues that arise in relation to administration of the new regulation, which may include that suppose consignments are held up for a longer period of time for no good reason, or for that matter if a reasonable opportunity is not provided to the importer to represent his case, in all those situations where rules of justice are violated, the importers can very well knock courts' doors.